I'd like to call to order the regular meeting for the Monument Board of Trustees, Monday, November 21st, 2022. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Hogan, will you take roll, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Elliott,
Here.
Trustee LeKind,
Here.
Trustee Ramos,
Here.
Trustee Romanello,
Here.
Trustee Shaning,
Here.
Trustee Stevens.
Here.
Next on the agenda is the consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve, or are there any adjustments needed for the consent agenda?
I'll go ahead and make a motion, or I'd like to move to G. My understanding that resolution needs some discussion, to section 6. So I'd like to go ahead and do that.
Second.
That was motion. Okay. Ms. Hogan, will you take roll, please?
Trustee Ramos,
Yes.
Trustee Shaning,
Yes.
Trustee LeKind,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Elliott,
Yes.
Trustee Stevens,
Yes.
Trustee Romanello.
Yes.
One thing I'm adding to this meeting is, as some of you may know, Mayor Wilson has been appointed and sworn in to the 73rd General Assembly as the House Representative for District 19. He will serve in this capacity until the 74th General Assembly is seated in mid-January, where he will assume his elected position as the state representative of the House District 20. So as per the Town and Monument Municipal Code 2.04.020C states, no elected or appointed official shall hold any other elective public office. For this reason, Mayor Wilson has resigned from the position as mayor of the Town of Monument for the remainder of his term. Okay. Next on the agenda, we have the appointment of Catherine Sellers as the interim town attorney. Mr. Rivera?
Point of order, did we approve the consent agenda?
Oh, no.
We just voted on the motion to move, or did I
Okay.
get that confused?
No, you're right. Thank you, Trustee Stevens. Ms. Hogan? Will you take roll, please?
I move to
You'll-
approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay. Ms. Hogan, will you take roll, please?
Trustee Shaning,
Yes.
Trustee LeKind,
Yes.
Trustee Romanello,
Yes.
Trustee Stevens,
Yes.
Trustee Ramos,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Elliott.
Yes. I got confused because I heard a second. Okay. Next is the appointment of Catherine Sellers as the interim town attorney. Mr. Rivera?
Thank you. It's been my pleasure to serve as your interim town attorney now for about a year. And as you know, I gave you my notice and it was time for me to move on. And you, at the last meeting, the November 5th meeting, I believe it was, you approved the contract of Ms. Sellers and her firm. And her firm and the contract has some specific language that basically has her serving in the capacity of special counsel until appointed as interim town attorney by you. So what we're looking for from you at this point is a motion to appoint Catherine Sellers as the interim town attorney.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So do we have a motion to approve Catherine Sellers as the interim town attorney?
I'll make a motion to approve Catherine Sellers as the interim town attorney.
Second.
Ms. Hogan, would you take roll, please?
Trustee Romanello,
Yes.
Trustee Shaning,
No.
Trustee LeKind,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Elliott,
Yes.
Trustee Stevens,
Yes.
Trustee Ramos,
Yes.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have a presentation, Monument Hill Tank Site Transfer, Mr. Rivera again.
Thank you. This is a topic that we've spent some time discussing. and it's now before you for your review. And at the conclusion of this presentation and after taking questions from you, what we're asking for is permission or approval by you of the primary components of the proposed contract, that you're okay with the various provisions and have approved the various provisions and are generally okay with the structure of the contract. And with that type of approval, then town staff and myself will present this contract to the other parties, Interstate 25 Properties and Comcast, let them know of your preliminary approval, seek their feedback, obtain their input, and then once that has been received and then incorporated into a final contract, it'll come back to you as an ordinance for a final contract. So but I think there is some value in order and to present to the I-25 properties and to Comcast, notice that you're generally okay with the structure of the deal, so that they know that there's light at the end of the tunnel and that there's progress been made, and that they can have some assurance that that the parameters of the component and the parameters of the deal and the components of the structure of the contract have been set. So that's what we're looking for.
Can I interrupt you 1 second,
Okay.
Joe? Drew, we have no presentation on our monitors. I can't see that far.
Okay.
Sorry. Thank you.
Not yet.
Still, yeah. Yeah, there you
We
go.
have it.
Go out, warm up.
So what you have before us is in essence, and we've talked a little bit about how we came to this spot, but basically there are two, I guess, trees, legal of two branches of a legal legal deed. And there is the 1969 conveyance, which you have before you. That's the Comcast property. And then there in 1977, there was a subsequent conveyance by the same landowner to the town of Monument. Because of a discrepancy in the conveyance to the town of Monument that followed the conveyance to Comcast by about 8 years, there was a defect in that lineage of the deed tree that has plagued us ever since, and all of the transactions that we're going to talk about today are an effort to fix that. So what you have before you is basically Comcast's land, and Comcast has correct and proper title. There's nothing wrong with their title. And this is, as you know, just up the road on Beacon Light. As you get to the top there, to the right is where the old water tank is. And the circle that is, you see the old water tank, and then you see northwest of that, a new circle, that's where the new water tank will be. And this is an ideal spot for a water tank because of its elevation, and that's why it was selected. And the property outlined in yellow is the property owned by Comcast now, but it was conveyed to by this property owner to Viewmore in 1969. If I could have you go to the next slide, Drew, please. Okay. At the bottom there, in blue, is what the town actually purchased. And then if you go one slide, Drew. Or down, and in the lighter blue is what the town thought it purchased. And that's the issue. So when you look at those, there's basically longitudinally, there was in the original survey from 1977, there was a mistake. It's not clear who made the mistake, but it's a mistake that was recorded and perpetuated. And longitudinally, it's 106 feet off. You can see it right here. It says 108. I believe it's 100. It's 108. I apologize. I thought it was 106 in my mind, but it's 108 feet off. And so in essence, that property is 108 feet off longitudinally. And so there's a difference between what the town thought it bought and what it actually bought by 108 feet. And the width dimensions are correct. It's the north-south dimension. So it's basically just moved down. The town purchased the original, what you're seeing here, in 1977 from I-25 Properties predecessor in interest. I believe it was called Mountain Grain at that time. And then recently, about 2 years ago, the town purchased the what it thought was the area immediately west of it from I-25. And because the conveyance relied on incorrect deed descriptions, we didn't buy the land that we thought we did. This mistake was discovered subsequent to purchase. And then what we have now is basically an attempt to work with the landowners at issue, the town, I-25 properties, and Comcast to, in essence, to give to the town the property necessary for the new water tank, to give Comcast some compensation in terms of additional land, because as it turns out, part of the land that the new water tank on belongs to Comcast, and to work with I-25 to trade all of these parcels so that all of the parties are whole, all of them are happy with the end result, and the town obtains the property interest necessary for its water tank, in essence. The first and the if you could, Drew, if you could change to the exhibits. And I'll walk through those with you, but those are the various transactions that are necessary. There are 7 transactions. The first one is that I-25 conveys to Comcast. I'm sorry, the town conveys to I-25 the real property depicted in Exhibit 1. So if you could show that, and if it's sometimes it shows up, but it's basically this bottom piece right there. So in essence, we're giving back to Comcast what is our deeded property. And in essence, all of these are basically sliding various pieces of property across the table to make all the parties whole. So that's the first one, and that's listed in transaction 2A. 2B, if you go to the second exhibit, they're in order. That's the legal for it. Keep going, please. 2B. The next one is the transaction listed at 2B, which is I-25 conveys to the town 11,494 square feet. That's the piece right here. It is in bold, and that will be a portion of where the water tank will be located. And that's the property that's going to hold about a third of the water tank. The next transaction is at 2C, and that where I-25 conveys to Comcast approximately 45,000 square feet, and that's at Exhibit 3. Please go there. And that's at the top, and that at the top there, that is the I-25 is giving Comcast a pretty large chunk of land at the top there, so that basically Comcast is compensated for participating in this transaction. And then Comcast has to, of course, 2D, Comcast is conveying to the town some real property necessary for the location of the water tank. If you can move to 4, Drew. There you go. And it's this piece right here. That's the location of the it's the area just north. It's basically the land that we thought we bought that was actually held by Comcast, and then the land west of that for the water tank. And now the town, after this conveyance, has all the property necessary for the water tank. And then Comcast conveys to I-25 the property listed in Exhibit 5, Tract B and Tract A, which is approximately 17,000 square feet in total. You can go to Exhibit 5, please. And it's this piece right here, the bottom right-hand corner, Tract A and Tract B. Tract B is necessary, and it's a little bit of an oddity, but I want to explain why it's there. Tract B is the location of a cell phone tower, and so that's why it was necessary to account for that, and that's why there was this little piece kind of hanging out there. And Tract A was again part of the series of transactions necessary to make the parties whole and induce them to cooperate in this endeavor. And then the other pieces are is that the I-25 conveys to the town permission to access and use the real property to drain the tank. So basically, we have, as part of this, permission to use Ferguson's property right here, since we already conveyed this to him right here, to use that property to drain the tank. There's how many million gallons that are in there? 1 million gallons, so it's gonna take a while. It's a lot of water that we have to account for. And then the next piece is Comcast agrees to convey to the town an access easement for the purpose of accessing the new water site. If you could go to Exhibit 6, please, Drew. So that's this piece up here. This is postage stamp piece up here. So to orient you in real life, when you drive north on Beacon Light, you'll see basically a gate. And that is owned by Comcast. And just south of Comcast is a facility. It resembles, I guess, a garage is what it looked like to me. And just south of that is a gate Comcast is conveying to the town. It's, I believe, a 25 by 25 foot postage stamp that allows essentially the town to turn left or right off of Beacon Light Road, enter onto Comcast property expressly for the purpose of accessing their property, the town's property, and to access the water tank. And then the other pieces are basically, and I think this is all of the actual transactions of land, in order to induce Comcast, and because they had clean and perfect title before this, we've agreed to provide to Comcast an Alta survey and title insurance so that they, at the end of the day, have what they had at the beginning of the day, clean title. And assurance that their title is clean, and good as against the world. The other piece is that because of this discrepancy in terms of the longitudinal problem of the 108 feet, there's an easement, there's an actual easement as recorded and an easement as it exists. One of the conditions of Comcast was that they not have any encumbrances on their property. In order to satisfy that condition, that those easements are now vacated both in actuality and as recorded. And then finally, in order to basically bring these new property rights into being and give them a legal effect, the method that we've chosen to use is the subdivision process, the subdivision exemption process. So this also requires the parties to participate in that process. And since this is county land, submit to the county a request for an exemption plat. And upon receipt of an approval of that exemption plat and upon the satisfaction of all these conditions, then the folks will have the property interests as shown in the last exhibit. You can go to 7, please, Drew. And this is what it'll look at at the end. This lot 1 will be a Comcast lot. Lot 2 will be the town's lot for both the old and new water tank. And then tract A and lot 3 will belong to Comcast, and that will be recognized and set forth in a subdivision plat filed with the county. And problem solved, and all of this behind us. Do you have any questions?
Yes, I have one. We had a similar presentation a few months ago. Has there been anything different from last time, or why are we reviewing it again?
Because I wanted, the intent was to have it in an open meeting so that there'd be a proper acknowledgement by the board
Okay.
of your assent, at least to the principles of the component, or the components of the agreement, so that I could convey that agreement to the other parties.
And the other question is, with the plans to drain the existing tank, will the new tank be ready in place of when that tank gets drained?
No, sir.
So we're going without water?
No, we will, I'm sorry, we have the new tank being built today
Right.
up on the hill. And so that will supply most of the town's water at that time. And so we will build the new tank up on Monument Hill. And so it will be built before we tear down the old tank.
Okay, so,
Yep.
all right, just want to make sure.
Yeah, the new tank, there will always be a tank operational.
Yeah.
This was
Right.
basically the overflow tank for the town, and to account, the new tank is going to account for serve as a supplemental water tank and to account for future growth.
Thank you.
To elaborate on that, if the new tank, the new 1 million gallon tank is built, will the water from the old tank get transferred into the new tank?
The new tank will be 1.5 million gallon tank.
Okay, so that looks like we have
I'm
space.
gonna look at Steve for that answer.
The old tank, the existing water tank, sorry. The existing water tank will be drained, and then we'll fill the new 1.2 million gallon tank, to supply from up on the hill. That's in addition to the 2 million gallon tank to the west of town.
Well, when you say drained, does that mean you're just gonna dump 1 million gallons into the creek or?
No, sir, no, I should have said utilize it, that will, into the distribution system, it'll
Okay.
be utilized.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
One quick question. I believe you answered it earlier, but the 6 steps here, Mr. Rivera, is there any chance that one party can back out when we're in the middle of this transaction?
Yes, there is always that possibility. It's my hope that they won't. We've been given early indications that there's assent, but it's not a done deal until it's executed.
There hasn't really been any party contesting this. It seems to be pretty favorable every
I
side.
think we've gone to great lengths to make it favorable to the other parties to encourage them to help us solve our problem.
Awesome. Thank you.
So, Mr. Rivera, you'd like just a verbal
I think-
agreement to the process from the board?
I think a verbal is sufficient, yes.
Does everyone agree?
I am.
Yes.
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 Thank you. Thanks.
Ms. Hogan, I'd like to acknowledge that the amended consent agenda passed 6-0 and the appointment of Catherine Sellers passed 5-1.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have 4 ordinances related to the town's budget. We have to pass the ordinance, or excuse me, we have to pass or fail the ordinances one at a time. But Ms. Herjoy, you have a couple presentations that you could make up front, and then we could move on to the ordinances.
I don't have a presentation at this time. The presentations were presented during the workshop. However, if you like me to pull any material, I can do that for you.
Is everyone good?
I'm good.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So ordinance number 20-22 is the first ordinance. And this is actually a public hearing item. Do we have any questions or comments from the board? Okay. Do we have anyone in the room that would like to speak for or against this ordinance? Drew, do we have anyone online that would like to speak for or against this ordinance? Thank you. Okay, I'll bring this back to the board. Any further?
I would like to make a motion to pass ordinance number 20-2022, an ordinance adopting a restated budget for the purposes set forth below for the town of Monument, Colorado, beginning on the first day of January 2022 and ending the last day of December 2022.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Hogan, will you take roll, please?
Trustee Stevens,
Yes.
trustee LaKind,
Yes.
trustee Shaning,
Yes.
trustee Romanello,
Yes.
trustee Ramos,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Elliott.
Yes. That ordinance passes 6-0. Next on the agenda, we have ordinance number 21-2022. Any comments or questions from the board? Take that as a no. So this is a public hearing item as well. Do we have any comments or questions, comments from the public that would speak, that are here at the meeting that would speak for or against this ordinance? Anyone online? No hands? Okay. Do I have a motion for ordinance number 21-22?
Make a motion to approve ordinance 21-2022, an ordinance appropriating sums of money to the various funds and the amounts set forth below for the town of Monument, Colorado, beginning on the first day of January 2022 and ending on the last day of December 2022.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Hogan, would you take roll, please?
Trustee Shaning,
Yes.
trustee Ramos,
Yes.
trustee Romanello,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Elliott,
Yes.
trustee Stevens,
Yes.
trustee LaKind.
Yes.
That ordinance passes 6-0. Next on the agenda, we have ordinance number 22-2022. Any questions or comments from the board?
No,
Yeah.
ma'am.
I would like to thank the staff for all the work they put into this. I know this has been a long process. We've had multiple workshops and, things like that. So I know there's a lot of work that goes into these, trying to hammer out the details. So I just want to thank you for all the work that you've put into this.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. And staff has worked extremely hard on this. You got to remember, we started this process in February of 2022 with our first workshop. And so Mona and all of our directors have worked very hard on this along with their staffs. So thank you.
This is a public hearing item. Do we have anyone present here in the meeting that would like to speak for or against this ordinance? Anyone on? No one here and no one online. Do I have a motion?
Yes, I make a motion to approve ordinance number 22-2022, an ordinance adopting a budget for the purposes set forth below for the town of Monument, Colorado, beginning the first day of January 2023, ending the last day of December 2023.
Second.
We have motion and a second. Ms. Hogan?
Trustee Ramos?
Yes.
Trustee LeKind?
Yes.
Trustee Shaning?
Yes.
Trustee Stevens?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Elliott?
Yes.
Trustee Romanello?
Yes.
And lastly, we have ordinance number 23-2022. Any comments or questions from the board?
No.
Okay, this is a public hearing item. Anyone that would like to speak for or against is present in the room for this ordinance? Drew? Anyone online? Okay. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 23-2022, an ordinance appropriating sums of money to the various funds in the amounts set forth below to the town of Monument, Colorado, beginning on the first day of January 2023 and ending on the last day of December 2023.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Hogan?
Trustee Romanello?
Yes.
Trustee Shaning?
Yes.
Trustee LeKind?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Elliott?
Yes,
Trustee Stevens?
Yes.
Trustee Ramos?
Yes.
that motion passes 6-0. Okay, next on the agenda are resolutions. The first resolution is a public hearing item. Do we have a presentation, Ms. Booth?
Going to have Sean with Jacobs Engineering do the presentation for us.
Okay.
Okay, good evening. Sean Snow here. Presenting on the preliminary final plat for Monument Junction East filing number 2, resolution number 90-2022. This of course shows the vicinity map. We're talking the area over south of Highway 105 on the east side of Jackson Creek Parkway. Existing zoning and planned roadway improvements within the approved Monument Junction Phase 1 preliminary final PUD. Monument Junction Phase 1 preliminary final PUD was approved by the Board of Trustees on March 21st, 2022. Woodmore Water and Sanitation District will provide both water and wastewater services for all development within Monument Junction. Planning Commission also requested clarification from the developer regarding timing of Jackson Creek Parkway road improvements in relation to development of residential projects on both sides of the roadway. Project summary of this area, just over 22 acres, 146 lots, plus 12 tracks, plus 3 streets. Lots range in size from 2,800 square feet to just over 6,300 square feet. Tracks A, B, C, D, E, F, G, I, J, K, and L consist of trails, open space, landscaping, signage, drainage, mail kiosks, and public utilities. Owned and maintained by the Monument Junction Metropolitan District Number 2. Tract H is a director's parcel for Monument Metropolitan District Number 2. The plat is consistent with the approved Monument Junction Phase 1 preliminary final PUD. All applicable code standards are met. Go over a bit from the comprehensive plan. The advisory document consists of information that we used when we were working on the present plat, including the following items: connected by sidewalks and trails, served with existing town, special district, or metro districts that provide water and sewer services. Community amenities are encouraged. Promote work, live, and play, with residential use being subordinate to the non-residential uses. Development, particularly along the I-25 corridor, should preserve views to the west and include a landscape buffer along the highway to reduce noise and light into the adjacent land uses. Centers should be served by controlled access onto arterial and collector streets and should minimize curb cuts. Development that strives to integrate two or more land uses such as residential, commercial, and office on one lot or within a subdivision with a defined pedestrian orientation that establishes and encourages connectivity to adjacent uses and supports all modes of travel. Housing should complement and be subordinate to the primary non-residential land uses. Developments that include a total cap on allowable square footage of non-residential uses and housing density that can be accommodated by the transportation network and accommodates easy access to goods and services by foot or by car. The applicable sections of the Monument Land Development Code include 18.02.250 and 18.02.060. Monument Junction East filing number 2 is consistent with the town's land development code. The preliminary final plat conforms with this section of code because it proposes a harmonious development and lot pattern that is compatible with the approved Monument Junction Phase 1 preliminary final PUD. It also provides adequate access from Jackson Creek Parkway to all lots and tracks. Jackson Creek Parkway is the main collector road servicing Monument Junction, and all lots will be accessed off local streets. The local streets will have sidewalks that will connect to the main sidewalk trail along Jackson Creek Parkway, which in turn will connect to the community trail system and parks. The lot size, lot coverage, and setbacks ensure continued compatibility within the community. The single-family residential subdivision will have varying design and facade treatments, which will make each lot unique. Lastly, the plat provides adequate utilities. The following slides cover the specific language within the code, which I will not go over. This is here more as a information for the board as well as the public. This is a preliminary plat information found in section 18.02.250. And then the final plat information in section 18.02.260. There's a lot of information, as you can see. Staff recommendation: staff recommends approval of Monument Junction East filing number 2 preliminary final plat based on the findings that the proposed plat is in conformance with the review and approval criteria for a preliminary final plat as outlined in the sections I just showed, 18.02.250 and 18.02.260 of the Town of Monuments Land Development Code. Planning Commission did hear this land development proposal earlier this month. Planning Commission, their motion to approve. Commissioner Hours moved that the Planning Commission recommend approval of Monument Junction East filing number 2 plat based on the findings that the preliminary final plat complies with the review criteria as outlined in the Town of Monuments Land Development Code sections 18.02.250 and 18.02.260. Commissioner Egley seconded the motion and the roll call vote was taken and the motion passed. Planning Commission 6-0. This slide gives the potential motions for the Board of Trustees. And then I'll leave it on this slide. We'd also have the applicant here as well in case there are additional questions.
Does the board have any questions for Mr. Snow? Okay.
I may have missed it, but has a traffic study been done or does that get completed later?
Yes, traffic study has been done and we can definitely answer questions about that.
I guess just a general question with that. How much detail does the traffic study get into? And does that, does the company doing the study have the knowledge of all the other developments being built on Jackson Creek Parkway.
So does Mike, Sheila, or Mark want to go into more detail about that? Who wants to take that? You want to, Mark? Okay.
Good evening, Mark Kitzmiller from Jacobs. I'm not the traffic engineer, but it's my understanding, and the applicant can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's my understanding there was a master traffic study done at the outset of the project, considering the various uses that could be filling the various densities throughout the properties on either side of Jackson Creek Parkway. The study was reviewed, found to be adequate, and it's been the model traffic study used for each subsequent development that's gone before the board as part of the PUD process.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions from the board before we open this up to a public hearing?
I've got a couple. When I was looking at all the diagrams, I was looking for a park. And as I heard in the presentation, there was some reference about trails leading to and throughout the development. In this particular section, is there not any park space? Or will there be, because I couldn't see it. I saw all the plots for the homes all nicely laid out there, but I didn't see anything that specifically called out a park. And I was just wondering if there was going to be, I did read something about 2.7 acres of park space. Can someone put a page up on and point out where that will be?
Joe Lido Classic Homes, there is a park immediately to the south of this plat. That was part of the first plat. So if we had the PUD plan, you would see that the first filings to the south, this filings to the north, in between the two is a park.
Okay, and so the trails will connect them together. Okay, thank you.
Any further questions from the board? Okay, let's open this up to the public. Anyone here wish to speak for or against this item? Come on up.
I'm Steve King. I just have one quick point, and this may have been on the final PUD, and if it was, I apologize. But I was just looking at the Village Center at Woodmore townhouses that sit about 10 feet off of their rear setback, where their views are out the back windows, and it looks like the lots to the north and also in front of Monument Village have a 5-foot easement, but the setbacks aren't on this plat. So that's why I said if it's on the final PUD, I apologize, but it looks like there may be 15 feet between structures there. So I just like to bring that up. That's all I had. Thank you.
Any other comments from the public that are here tonight? Drew, anybody online? Okay. Would the applicant like to address that last comment from the public?
Yeah, the lots in question that he's talking about, all of those setbacks are on the PUD plan. And all of that was reviewed at that time with those setbacks. That is a higher density product right there, but yeah, those setbacks are on there. But those are smaller lots for sure. But that was approved back at that time. This final plat matches the development plan. Exactly.
Thank you. Okay, I'd like to close the public hearing and bring this back to the board. Any comments, questions, or a motion?
I'll move to approve resolution 90-2022, a resolution approving a preliminary final plot for Monument Junction East filing number 2.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Ms. Hogan?
Trustee Shaney,
Yes.
trustee Romanella,
Yes.
trustee LaKind,
Yes.
trustee Stevens,
Yes.
trustee Ramos,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Elliott.
Yes. That motion passes 6-0. Okay, the next item on the agenda, resolution number 91-2022, a resolution authorizing the town manager to enter into an internet service agreement between the town of Monument and Amnet. Steve Waichulis.
Yes, good evening. Steve Waichulis, Director of Human Resources and IT Services for the Town of Monument. Thank you for your time this evening. I bring before you this resolution authorizing the town manager to enter into an agreement with Amnet to provide IT services for the Town of Monument. This resolution comes about after several months of work, direction, and leadership from this Board of Trustees, leadership from Mike Foreman, Town Manager, and the support of staff for the Town of Monument. During the process of reviewing different vendors, 8 specific vendors, over 34 specific points, the decision has been made to provide Amnet with a contract to work with the Town of Monument. These IT services provided by Amnet will replace our current vendor. That replacement will be over a period of 30 days as we offboard our current vendor and move to Amnet. The services include, but this is not an inclusive, all-inclusive list, backup and recovery, disaster recovery, cybersecurity, IT managed services, remote 24/7 monitoring, 2-hour average response time on all service calls, a VCIO relationship, unlimited on-site service calls, among other items. Amnet maintains certifications with Microsoft, including systems administration, systems engineering. They also received and maintain an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau, several awards regarding the culture of their organization. It's probably remiss if I did not mention that Amnet has been a stable and growing organization in our community, in El Paso community, headquartered in Colorado Springs since 1988. I've invited representatives from Amnet to attend this meeting. We have today the CEO of Amnet, Trevor Dieridorf, as well as the Chief Operating Officer, Tara Dieridorf, to answer any questions. My request is simple tonight. I'm not providing a presentation. The documentation has all been in the board packet, including the contract and quote from Amnet. I'm asking this board to provide direction and approval for us to enter into this agreement, a projected monthly cost of around $10,000. That cost is subject to the amount of users that we have. And of course, that number does vary throughout the year. In addition to the monthly cost, the Town of Monument will provide a one-time setup fee of $18,000. This setup fee is to ensure a smooth implementation, to ensure security of our internet services in the Town of Monument, and preventing any type of intrusion. The contract will renew after the first year when the Town of Monument has submitted in writing its interest to renew. In addition to this, I mentioned that there will be a VCIO relationship. We currently have Drew Anderson, our IT manager, who's been absolutely instrumental in reviewing these proposals and getting us to this point. Drew will have a single point of contact to provide him with outside expert advice in growing our infrastructure, our IT and MIS services. At this point, I welcome any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
Thank you very much, Mr. Waichulis. One question, our current provider, I know there was issues with them and you were attempting to, I don't know if the word credit or refund is correct, but you were attempting to have them not hit us with some cancellation fees. Were we able to successfully do that?
Yes, absolutely. As a matter of fact, we are potentially looking at a credit back from that particular vendor.
For when our services were down?
Not only for when our services were down, but reconciliation. Our Director of Finance and her team, as well as Drew Anderson, have done a very good job in reviewing our invoices, our previous invoices. I have been able to develop a relationship with the Senior Vice President of that organization, who has been as well as instrumental in helping us reconcile any of those costs. It does appear that we have been overcharged for some items in the past year, and we will be recouping those costs. It also seems that our cost might be zeroed out entirely, or we might be receiving some money back.
Thank you very much. for all the public here or watching, this has been an ongoing problem, and our staff has just been incredible with finding the issue and fighting to protect the town. So seriously, from the bottom of our heart, thank you for all the work that you've put into this. We really appreciate it.
And sir, I'd be remiss if I did not point out the fact that it truly was a town staff effort to get us to this point. So thank you for that.
Any other questions, comments, or motion?
I've got a couple comments, and for the general public, forgive me for getting all geeky here for a second. And so the question will be between Steve and Trevor. I got some questions specific about the contract, and if there's certain things that are going to be in it that I didn't see when I was looking through it, such as what vulnerability capabilities to remediate those vulnerabilities from 0 day through the various levels that wind up showing up in the CVE database. I'd like to know if we're going to have annual DR scenarios being done where the systems are intentionally failed over and we can recoup and recover so we don't have data loss. Intrusion testing to make sure that all of our systems, especially those that are pertaining to water, are validated and meeting all the federal and state guidelines for those systems. I didn't catch specifics about those things specifically, so.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Trevor, would you like to fill that?
I didn't mean to make you get up. Sorry, Trevor.
He's a lot better than it was a month ago. All right, yeah, you hit me with three things at a time there, I think. You restate your first question.
The vulnerability remediations, are you going to be going against the MITRE.org CVE database, and what utility is going to be placed in the environment to ensure we don't get hit with 0 days?
So the backup solution that we're using, the vendor's called Datto, and it is backing up the servers on an hourly basis locally on premises with an image of that server, not just data, but a full server image nightly that is backed up to a data center. To keep that segmented from the network, it's on a separate VLAN. It's not joined to the domain. And so it's as insulated as reasonably possible from if hackers do gain access to the network, that they can't gain access to where those backups are being held. We do a monthly backup test of those images on that backup server.
Okay.
What was the next question?
About the vulnerabilities was the first one. The utilities that are used that gets installed on workstations and servers to ensure 0 day attacks are not introduced into the environment. I mean, people make mistakes. They go to websites they're not supposed to, or they open attachments and emails that they're not supposed to. And those 0 day attacks will just kill the network, kill all the data too. So what's being utilized to protect
So we
it?
have a network intrusion detection and response solution. The vendor's called Perch. So that's watching for malicious code that's on the network. Also, we have on the workstations and servers an endpoint detect and response solution from Huntress. Each of them have their own SOC that's associated with the subscription for those tools. And those SOC locations will, when something is found, either remediate or they'll escalate it back to us to then resolve. Nothing is 100%, but we think that we've got a pretty tight net here for protecting against those attacks. In addition, as you mentioned, staff accidentally going to a website or clicking on a PDF or a link. One of the things that we're doing as far as website, ending up on a malicious website, we've got IP geo isolation where we're going to be blocking known malicious IP addresses, but also IP addresses for outside the United States for the most part, the places people don't need to go. Nobody here needs to be going to a Chinese or a Russian or Brazilian website. In addition, we're also providing for all of the employees of Monument
cybersecurity awareness training that starts out with an initial training with quizzes to validate that they've learned the information they're supposed to. And that's followed up with weekly micro trainings, keep it top of mind and keep them current on what the current threats are.
Thank you.
Better. Okay,
Yeah, that's it.
thank you.
Any other questions or motion?
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 91, 2022, a resolution authorizing the town manager to enter into an internet services agreement between the town of Monument and Amnet.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Hogan?
Trustee Ramos,
Yes.
trustee Shanky,
Yes.
trustee LaKind,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Elliott,
Yes,
trustee Stevens,
Yes.
trustee Romanello.
Yes.
that motion passes 6-0. And one more resolution, number 87-2022, a resolution awarding a contract to Hydro Resources to drill and construct 3 new Denver Basin wells. Mr. Sheffield? Mr. Foreman?
Thank you.
Okay, on this one, sorry, I was texting. Somebody, congratulations. So this right here is to award a contract to Hydro Resources to drill and construct 3 Denver Basin wells. There is some language in the contract that we have to change, and Catherine Sellers can review that language for you that we're going to have to take out of the contract.
Sure. I just want to say thank you for the appointment earlier, and I look forward to working with you all. So in that contract prepared by Vital Water, you have a provision in there regarding illegal aliens. It used to be that under state law, you were permitted to require what's called a verification of lawful presence. That has actually been repealed, and you are now prohibited from having that in your contracts. So we'd like to remove that and have you approve the contract with that amendment, and we'll take it back to Vital Water and have them fix that with the contract we signed. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the board?
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry. Did you say something about illegal aliens?
Yeah, so on page 5 of that contract, if we can go back up in your packet, it starts out with an illegal alien provision that used to be the language from the statute. It was briefly changed to workers without authorization and then was completely repealed, all in the matter of about a year.
So this is basically saying that the town has to accept the fact that there could be workers that are not legally authorized to be in the United States, work on our systems?
You cannot require contractors to verify legal presence of their employees, correct?
I don't know how I sit with this then.
Terrible.
Yeah, I don't understand what's happening right now. Why
It's a
would the
state
town?
law. I get it's a state
Then
law.
maybe can we not go with a contractor then? Like, well, I guess we have, I mean, what's the alternative?
But there isn't.
I don't think there is one.
Prohibited from having that in your law.
Okay, so is there any mechanism to get around having a public contract in this situation? Like, can that somehow, that can't be?
No, we're a public entity. We only enter into public
Well,
contracts.
I realize that. I guess I'm not articulating myself well. Like, could we hire actual staff to do this?
No, we can't drill wells, unfortunately.
Can't find someone to drill wells.
Yes, we can find someone to drill wells. That's what this contract is for, to find someone to drill wells. But we have to use this language in the contract or the state requirements.
Do you mind just explaining again what it went by very fast? Do you mind explaining
No
what we
problem.
are changing?
So it used to be under Colorado law, there was a provision that expressly allowed you to require contractors to verify the lawful presence of their employees in your public contracts. Last legislative session in 2021, the legislature fully repealed that section and replaced it with a prohibition on allowing you to have that in your contract and require that of contractors. So the state basically said, when it comes to public contracts, you cannot require that of your contractors, and
So-
that's statewide.
We can't require that of our contractor, but we can find a company that requires that of its employees outside of the contract.
Sure, but you just can't make it a term of the contract or.
So
a term
does
of the
this
deal.
company, Hydro Resources, have a policy that they will only employ legal citizens of the United States?
I have no idea.
So could we table this until a time where we can determine that we are about to sign a contract with an entity that does?
I would advise against that because we need to drill these wells as soon as possible. Because this is the gap between us, where we are today and where we want to be with either the Loop project or the NDS project in the future.
But don't you think it's important that we sign a contract with the right company?
And we've
I mean,
used,
what's 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks in a project so massive?
due to weather, it could be a very constrictive for us.
That would happen.
If you approve it tonight, we're going to start working pretty quickly on these wells.
Any other questions?
I just think that we could take the time to make sure that we're employing the correct company here.
Is there a rep from the contractor here?
I'm sorry, I missed the
Is
question.
there a rep from Hydra here?
There is not a representative from Hydro Resources here.
And the other companies that bid, they hire similar staff as Hydra would, in the potential that they would be not legally authorized to work in the United States?
Well, we could look at their employment policies, correct?
I'm not sure I'm the person to answer that question.
So I think I can a little bit. You know, they're not required to provide you with any of that. They're a private entity, not a public one. So that's issue number one. The second issue is that it's possible that even if you are not contracting that way, that going through that and requiring them to produce that and evaluating that term, and then making your evaluation of a contractor based upon what their policies say could still run you afoul of that state statute.
I think we need to table this to a time after which we could look at the employment contracts or look at these companies in further detail. Whatever that means, I don't think the town of Monument should enter into a contract with an entity that is potentially bringing illegal aliens to work on our property.
I share your passion with this. I want to clarify for myself, I guess. None of this, Ms. Sellers, none of this is coming from the vendor or from the client, correct? This is just our contract that we are changing. So nothing from the client has changed. Nothing from Hydro Resources has changed. They have not requested anything.
No.
They're not here. This has nothing to do with them. Okay, so this is you essentially finding an error in our contract, even though I completely disagree with this error. I think it's crazy, but you found something in our contract that is not up to standards.
Vital Water created the contract, so I
Okay.
don't want to speak to where the contract came from. My job is to let you know if there's a legal issue, tell you what it is, and you make your choices.
And that issue is, okay,
That issue is we'd be out of state compliance.
yeah. So it's not the client, Hydro Resources, that has really involved in this at all. So
I would like to make a
They
motion. to
actually
table this.
included the language in the contract. And so Ms. Sellers found that language and found it to be opposite of what the state requires.
they put forward the contract in that
Right.
way, and then we
Yep.
are
We had
changing
Ms.
it.
Sellers review the contract, and in her review of the contract, she noticed that this was in conflict with state law.
So my initial thought, and I'm just
Right.
speaking openly, my initial thought is to table it would be to punish Hydra Resources for something that they didn't do, and it would be punishing them for a rule, even if we completely disagree, that has nothing to do with them.
Well, and if they are the ones that put that language in there,
And they're probably,
then it's, I
yeah.
don't think they're going to be
I agree.
employing.
I
such
think to table it would not be the right move.
Would you like to retract that motion?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Any other questions? We have a motion?
I would make a motion to approve resolution number 87, 2022, a resolution awarding a contract to Hydro Resources to drill and construct 3 new Denver basin wells.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Hogan?
Trustee Romanella,
Yes.
trustee Shaney,
Yes.
trustee Stevens,
Yes.
trustee Ramos,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Elliott,
Yes.
trustee LaKind.
Yes.
The motion passes 6-0. Next on the agenda, we have public comment. Individuals in person may raise their hand to indicate that they would like to comment. Individuals attending via WebEx may raise their hand digitally to comment via connected devices. Please lower your hand when finished with your comments, and comments are limited to 3 minutes. We have anyone in this room that would like to speak? Come on up.
Trustees, we wanted to take a quick moment to say a quick thank you for 2 different things that we worked with the town of Monument on. First is I was standing in a parking lot actually talking about space issues that we had, and was just kind of talking out loud, and another one of the trustees was there and mentioned that there might be space that the town of Monument could help us use for a meeting that we needed. Space within our building is very limited. And so through collaboration with the town staff, we were able to utilize one of the conference rooms by the town to conduct one of our meetings. And I just wanted to say thank you for allowing us to be able to use a resource. It's helpful very much for us to be able to continue to work within our community and be able to have that space and be able to use a resource that already exists here like yours. So I just wanted to say thank you to the town and the staff for helping to make that work. We really appreciate that.
We also just had one of our holiday food drives, and thanks to Trustee LaKind for heading it up. We were able to, from the turkey drive, feed over 150 families for this Thanksgiving season. So with the help of you, we were able to do that. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public here at the meeting? Anybody online, Drew? Okay, let's move on to board authorization items. First authorization item we have is presentation from Colorado Department of Transportation regarding the Baptist Road and Terrazzo Drive intersection on December 5th.
Yes, I was contacted by CDOT. They'd like to do a presentation for you in December, hopefully December 5th, to give you an update on Baptist Terrazzo intersection.
Does everyone agree with that?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay.
We've been sort of waiting for that.
That does. Okay. The next board authorization item is direction. Okay, Mr. Foreman, you're asking for direction for the December 19th Board of Trustees meeting.
Yes, ma'am. Currently, we have no items scheduled for that agenda and would look for some direction for that since it is 6 days before Christmas.
No meeting.
Does everyone agree?
I heard the meeting was going to be in Vail or Breckenridge or something.
Yes.
On the town.
Yeah, so just looking for direction on whether or not we could cancel that meeting.
You all agree to cancel?
I agree.
Yes.
It's canceled.
All right, thank you.
Okay, next is Board of Trustees comments. Any comments from the board?
I also want to thank people who have served here on the board, and congrats to you for your future endeavors, and congrats for now Trustee LaKind, future not trustee LeKind. So congrats and thank you for everybody's service here.
Any other comments? Okay. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.